Hello everyone, I am Tacit and I'm going to be going over the Gems of War event objectives for the Hark Attack event in which Lord Harker is added to the game. We have a lot of things going on this week. We ended up getting the event calendar for the entirety of February. We have the current Lunar New Year event where we have to use a bunch of yellow teams in order to go get a new Centaur troop for the Year of the Horse. Honestly, it's not too bad, at least relative to Centaurs. Compared to everything in the game, it's pretty average. But compared to Centaurs, is a great alternative if you don't have like Worldbreaker or something similar. Like if you don't have like those really hefty mythics for the category. So we have that going on for the next 2 weeks. We also, of course, pretty noteworthy, have the current end of the campaign, the blood gem related campaign. The mythic is finally available. And yeah, final week to go and clear out all the tasks related to that. But the most important ones being all the purple deed books. If you didn't get those yet, those 3 purple deed books from it, really highly advised, really great to end up getting the best deed book in the game, as long as you don't have the Magic Kingdoms upgraded yet, as those 3 Magic Kingdoms are very, very high priority to end up getting up with your purple deed books. But anyways, let's start from the calendar and then rotate around to everything else as well as all the teams for the week. So, first things first. We got the calendar. As far as the calendar is concerned, a couple noteworthy things. Of course, as of today, we have the start of the 2-week-long Lunar New Year event for the Year of the Horse. This you'll be able to go get a new legendary troop for, the old armor, as well as the pet corresponding to that of the troop. There'll also be 2 other pets that we'll be able to get this month beyond just this 2-week period. One being the Valentine's Day pet coming in on the 11th, and the Lunar New Year pet for the Year of the Horse on the 18th. We're also going to be having an advent calendar thingy starting on the 14th or actually starting a little bit earlier and then going to the 14th, where we end up getting some kind of special reward for the current Valentine's Day as well, since it's not having a separate event for it. Beyond that, the only other really noteworthy thing that isn't like super out of the ordinary is a patch. We are finally getting the Astral Spires coming into the game. So this is a mechanic that's going to be rather interesting. It's going to be one of the more meta-defining things we've had pretty much since 2019, where we end up getting medals added to the game. This has a lot of potential to change up gameplay and what you want to prioritize resource-wise and everything like that. We currently don't have too many details on this specifically at the moment. However, I assume within the next upcoming weeks, we will be getting more info on it. And whenever we do finally get more info on it, the following Tuesday is almost guaranteed going to be the patch. The most likely date for it, even though it hasn't been given one, is probably the 17th, though it could also be on the 10th or 24th. But the 17th seems like the most likely date that would end up occurring based on all the calendar events and the fact that it says mid to late February, which is exactly that Tuesday then. So we'll have to wait and see. But it could be any of those 3 days, 10th, 17th, or 24th. We'll just find out as it rotates around. And we should have some more info in the upcoming weeks before it comes out as far as what exactly we'll end up doing. But it'll be basically a bunch of buffs that you can have for various teams, types. You'll probably be able to build it around certain archetypes and certain stuff like that. As a lot of the details we just don't really know until it ends up coming out. So I'll have to wait and see. But definitely a pretty hefty patch, even though it's only a 0.1 patch. Anyways, beyond that, let's go into a few of the other things we have, of course. Noteworthy thing as far as things that are ending very soon, not that one, is the campaign. It is the final week to go and finish out the campaign. If you end up buying it, don't forget to go and get up to all the rewards. We'll be going over the Mythic in a video tomorrow as well as on stream tonight. But as far as she is concerned, she's basically Tina 9000, but for true damage, but worse. She deals a bunch of true damage to 3 enemies and gets to keep that as life, and is boosted by bleed gems. This is a little unfortunate because there isn't anything too good to really get like a ton of bleed on the board that synergizes well with her. At least she does use purple, so she's able to go and suck up all the bleed gems for mana accumulation, if nothing else. So you can end up mana accumulating into her with the bleed gems. But for the most part, her ability itself is not enough bleed gems to depend on, and without any boost ratio onto her ability, it is a very underwhelming amount of damage that other true damages in the game already do similarly or better. So unless you can get a lot of bleed gems, like 10 plus on the board, she's pretty much just a standard true damager that doesn't do that much and is ultimately weaker than Tina 9000 in pretty much every instance you would end up using it. The other thing that makes her weaker, she only has a 25% spell reduction instead of Tina 9000's 50%, which is one of the main gimmicks that actually made Tina 9000 viable, as that attack gain that Tina 9000 has doesn't really get used too much on its final trait, but the fact that it has a giant armor gain into that 50% is what made it viable, whereas her having a big life gain into 25% isn't really going to do nearly as much. She also can't conveniently be mana started. There is a 50% undead start, however the troop associated to it is not ideal, whereas of course Tina 9000 can be done off of the mech hero class, which is always pretty good, since you can of course set any hero weapon including Wand of Stars among, you know, any of them, so it tends to have a lot more viability compared to the undead 50% mana starter that is a pretty underwhelming troop. It does have no mana conflict with her if nothing else, so it has that as an upside. But for the most part, she's basically just ultimately weaker Tina 9000, even with the extra shininess that she'll end up getting, which I believe just makes her boost ratio stronger. That or makes it hit her 4 enemies. Either or, it's still not going to be enough to really save her. But she's not bad. I'll still end up using her in like Golvania, Undead, restrictions, stuff like that in the future. Beyond that, other things. Let's go over all the teams. Oh, actually, let's go over the other event where we're already talking about the other new stuff. So, of course, we have the 2-week-long Year of the Horse event. This will be taking effect for the next 2 weeks, of course. You have to use this any yellow team, and you'll end up getting the following rewards. We end up having this new legendary. It deals a bunch of damage to all enemies, boosted by Centaur allies at a boost ratio that is not ideal. It's pretty low. And if the enemy ends up dying, it will end up giving 50% mana start to all allies, which is honestly not that bad. 50% of their mana is pretty solid just for getting a kill, especially if you can chip things into kill range. Has really good synergy with Artima, the legend from this place, which is shinyable, as you can go and poke them down into damage range and then kill with this. Unfortunately, no extra turn potential, but 50% mana across your entire team is a pretty substantial amount. As far as his ability, ends up gaining a bunch of extra life and magic, most notably magic, to all Centaur allies, while having Impervious, so you could end up incorporating him into a 4 times Centaur team. His main use case is going to be 4 times Divinian Fields and 4 times Centaur if you do not have Ward Breaker, as your team would be Artima, him, and like 2 mana accumulators. Hero with some kind of mana accumulation, and then maybe like Herdmaster or whatever else you have of mana accumulation is going to be the primary team that you end up running, which kind of connects the low rarity, or at least mid rarity, Centaur Divinian Fields team. Because before, if you really wanted good damage, you basically had to have Wardbreaker, that mythic from the place. But now you can build a pretty solid team just out of him and Artima. So, while not the greatest troop in the world, it is pretty good in both of his restrictions. He, of course, also gets +5 to all stats from this horse pet. And beyond that, you can also go get the old lunar armor. So if you didn't pick these up from any of the past events, you can end up picking that up. And if you have some spare points by the end or want to go for it, this is the cheapest orb of power you could end up getting. If you still need it from Maelstrom Dagonoth from last year, or want to do it and save it for whatever new power orb mythic they might add soon. I'm not sure if there's any leaks of those anytime soon, or, you know, if they've been found in the files yet. But, yeah, we might get another power orb mythic if they're consistently doing Dragonstone, you know, the Dragonstone dragons every single year. Who knows? Maybe they'll start bringing back the Power Orb Mythics every single year, as we did get one last year, so who knows? Maybe we'll get another one this year, since they seem to be a lot more consistent with some of those things. So, yeah, but still keep stocking up on power, Orb of Powers. You never know when you're just going to drop a Power Orb Mythic that's going to need like 2 or 3 on your team, or who knows, maybe even 4. But you never know when they're going to drop like one that you need multiple copies of, so always good to get the Spirit Orb of Powers, so you don't have to dip into your other orbs, and it's pretty cheap to get from the event. Ultimately a few hundred if you're just buying 50 gems per day, as far as the extra amount that you'd have to spend to go and get it. Anyways, let's get into all the teams. So, as far as Invasion, this is Undead. Actually, was it Undead? No, it was just Undead. I was gonna say, is it Undead plus color? No, this is Invasion events. They're just Undead, just the singular typing. Of course, you are going to want to be using the new Tower Troop. Ends up getting 5 times skull damage against all the towers. You also need it for the double score. But this thing is pretty average. It does have the worm mechanic, where it ends up creating 7 of a gem. There are quite a few worms in the game that end up doing this. I believe this is the very first one that does it for a power gem. This actually does it for that of bleed gem, which of course are purple, which unfortunately does not feed back into itself, but of course feeds into many other undeads that you would otherwise have on your team. But of course, you just keep using this to go and chip down towers, having both 5 times damage, up to 5 times damage on skulls, as well as up to 5 times, technically 10 times because of the double magic that it has, onto the towers themselves. We're using a Mortal Ossifer just for skull spam to be able to go utilize that 5 times skull damage, also having a little bit of true damage if we need to go and ultimately kill with it if our first loss somehow dies, and Double Pharaoh just for a bunch of mana accumulation. You can also use its brown mana accumulation off the Pharaoh in order to go get your Grave Worm to full mana. As far as the lower rarity team, we're basically just running with double Invasion Troop. If you don't have Wand of Stars, just use whatever your best mana accumulation weapon is. If you don't have a Mortal Ossifer, you can use the common Undead Troop, that one purple one that just ends up creating a small amount of skulls with auto extra turn, or just put another mana accumulation here in order to feed into the core of your team, being the Bone Catapult, which is one of the old Tower Troops, as well as the one that you have to use of the Grave Worm. And Bone Catapult, main benefit of this, other than the fact that it can be shinied if you got it in the past, is has Bone Storm. So this thing, whenever you get a kill, does Bone Storm, so you'll be able to get more skulls onto the board, so whenever you clear it with your weapon, or with other things that explode a bunch, you'll be able to go and get a lot more skulls onto the board, giving a lot more access to be able to get your 5 times skull damage. Otherwise, it's pretty just standard double Invasion Troop, as pretty much every Invasion event is. As far as the faction is concerned, it is a yellow, purple restriction for the, what is it called, Crimson Court? I actually forget what its thing is called. It's called the Dark Court. I know it was something court. But as far as the Dark Court, it is a yellow purple restriction for that of Golvania. With that being said, we can just run quick kill Atlanta team for the lower battles, doing Leprechaun since we have access to purple in order to go explode, and just using whatever hero weapon. In this case, Black Manacle just for accessibility in order to go and kill everything out. Though, of course, you could use that new one that came out if you got all of the most recent evil dragons, as that one also works out pretty well. As far as the higher level range, we're just running a double insta-kill team with Leprechaun. You can put any 2 damage sources that you wish here. The core of the team is Wanda Stars plus Leprechaun, and just put your best 2 damage sources in between. This one just happens to show it with Zulgoth and Catharix. As far as the Pure Faction team, there's a couple different ways to run it. However, with the new trip that we end up getting, or I believe this was the new one, the Bloodflower Duchess, we can now do a little bit of a different team for it and actually run one of each in order to get that hefty extra bonus. Most notably, the very high amount of extra magic. Well, maybe not really high, but I guess if you count Fae, yeah, it is actually kind of very high. 19 extra starting magic? That's pretty solid. Not even counting medals or anything else. So yeah, I guess that really high would be a good descriptor of it, as 19 is pretty substantial. And of course, we're using this for a couple things. We're using Deathknight for the barrier. He doesn't end up gaining any benefit from the magic, nor does the Kelpie really, since we're not really using it for its damage. We're just kind of hoping he randomly gets Devour, but he does have that little bit of mana drain. The main 2 things is the Bloodflower Duchess. This ends up draining all mana from an enemy instead of just partial, also giving a bunch of life to whatever your weakest ally is, which will generally be whatever your frontline tank is. And on top of that, we have the main damage source. You can also double up or even triple up on this if you really want to. And the basic premise of her, she drains all mana from an enemy, but she generally wants to hit the last enemy because she deals a bunch of damage to them and all enemies above them, meaning you're almost always casting this on last slot, which then frees up this to be able to be casted on whatever the front line is that's about to cast, which is what you would use these 2 for. But then the last line you would end up using always on last slot, even though you're probably not going to be mana draining much, if anything at all. You need it to be able to go and maximize your damage. And with all the extra magic that we're getting, it will be a pretty substantial amount of damage, almost hitting up to 100. Actually, with all the extra bonuses that you might have, it might actually be over 100, depending on where your stats are, due to all of the Underspire or Underworld bonuses that you would end up getting when doing a Pure Faction battle like that. As far as the Deathknight class event, this is specifically undeads from the Golvania faction or kingdom. As far as these are concerned, we're basically just feeding a bunch of extra blue link or whatever one you want to do into your weapon. In this case, we're just feeding a bunch of blue into the ruby, but you can do this with any link feeding into whatever weapon. For example, you could do triple banshee and feed in the black manacle if you need something really cheap for it. As far as Underspire teams, I try to never show these in a team. We probably will start showing them in teams a bit more often once they're available on SoulForge, something that is still not available yet, but they have made some mention that it might happen sometime within the next year. However, I am showing it this time just because Golvania's mana accumulation is pretty bad, so hopefully you have an Undead Sentinel. If you don't, there's still options, of course. It's just, this place's mana accumulation is really unfortunate as far as options available. As far as our first slot here, we're doing a Exploder column and to gain a bunch of life, so he can end up being tanking for the entirety of the team with his high score reduction. But the main thing here is if an enemy is cursed, which he almost guarantee will be because he has cursed disease whenever they take a skull on you, so they'll deliberately let them take a skull and you'll be good to go. He'll create 8 giant purple gems. This is a very heavy amount of mana accumulation. If you were to get all of them, that's already 40 mana right there, which of course can feed into the many troops that are undead purple within the kingdom, with the main one being Great King in this case, where it has mana destroy or has gem destroy into a bunch of mana accumulation, into cascade, into true damage to everything it hits. We'll also be able to disable them out, really solid. But the main core of our team here is using a hero weapon as mana accumulation into the Thorn Flower Dragon for Golvania. This Flower Dragon has such a lack of synergy within this kingdom. However, it is a Flower Dragon, and because it is a Flower Dragon, it has basically infinite damage. It has very good boost ratio. Forget the exact number, but something like a 2 point something, like 2.8. Somewhere absurdly high. But it deals a bunch of damage to all enemies, converts 5 red gems to burning gems, and then there is a 10% chance to gain an extra turn, boosted by red gems, which is the most relevant thing being just does an absurd amount of damage to all enemies. For the most part, it's not really using much of its traits similar to Flower Dragon. It is pretty much just here for its very hefty amount of damage. You just cast it and then basically win. Should be able to one-shot up to floor 3, maybe even floor 4, depending on where your stats are. And obviously with 2 shots at the later battles, or it could be offset with other damage sources within the kingdom to be able to go and do so as well. As far as the lower rarity team, we are using a couple different things that aren't as low rarity. Corpse Mirror definitely is. He's just a bounty trooper. He's a rare. He's really easy to get. Just for some event keys, you can get him very solid within like 10-ish. Destroys a row for mana accumulation, steals a bunch of life. Pretty common to see in Bounty Hunter itself, as it can be used for that event, which we do have this weekend. And it ends up stealing a bunch of life, so it gets to keep it. And it's also boosted by any skulls that you take, so you'll get the damage from the skulls, on top of the fact that you also get the boost ratio for the amount of true damage, basically double dipping on the extra damage for it. We are using the Doom Scythe. While this normally would be a slightly annoying weapon to get because, you know, it's from a specific kingdom, and also a Doom weapon, it is a Golvania event week, so with that being said, it is in Soulforge this week, so if you don't currently have this or any other good weapon to be able to run, it is a Golvania event week, so you will be able to go into Soulforge and grab whatever you need for the week, and if you can end up picking up Doom Scythe, it's pretty good. It's still used a decent amount. It converts all yellow to Doom Skull while getting a bunch of damage to all enemies. There's definitely a good handful of teams where you still use this weapon, as well as all similar weapons of this category. So highly advised whenever they roll around like these to convert Doom Skull, hit all enemy Doom weapons. They're really solid to get, still among one of the best 3 Doom weapons types within the game. Flesh Golem we're just doing here for a bunch of mana accumulation. You can also use him as an offset tank if you want to use him a little bit further up. I set him a little bit further down so he wouldn't block on purple. And this one's a little bit higher mana, or higher rarity. It is a legend. However, it is very convenient to have. You could, of course, just run another mana accumulator here if you don't end up having this. However, if you can scrap the event keys together to end up getting the Ghost Queen, it is the main thing that you would want to event key for if you're trying to just throw a set amount at it and not really worry about the mythics, but just try to get all the useful legends from it. This is a very, very useful legend to end up picking up this week from the event key drop table, as it's a 50% mana start to all undeads. While this isn't always used with pure undead teams, it is still pretty decent whenever you can end up incorporating it, as it just drastically increases the speed at which you can end up getting everything off the ground. And with how bad undead mana accumulation is good to be able to offset that for the extra bit of mana accumulation. As far as the yellow event, of course, you could just run any pure yellow team and end up getting this done. With that being said, we were just running double Pharaoh into Flower Dragon for the higher rarity. Of course, this could be any damage source you have. It does not have to be Flower Dragon specifically. Keep in mind, if you don't have access to this many Pharaohs or anything like that, you can also use Takshakas. Takshaka is also yellow, so you could use double, triple Takshaka. We just had a Guild War where that was really relevant, so if you end up stocking up those for that Guild War, we can also use it right now for this event week and run basically the same thing you basically would have ran for the past Guild War, where you ran like 2 or 3 Takshakas, Wanda Stars, or whatever else on your team, and you could literally just copy paste that team from last week and be good to go, whatever you end up using for the Divine Guild War. As far as, because so many Divines are also yellow, so for a lot of these, you could literally just copy paste your Divine team from last week if you really want to. As far as lower rarity, of course, this is a bunch of Lanas. If you want to put Hero in first slot, you can, though keep in mind, I believe it still has to be yellow for this event, the weapon, so just have to specifically be a yellow weapon, like Dawnbringer, that one Dust weapon. I just forget that thing's name. It's called Dust, not Blade, that one, Dancing Daggers is the one I'm thinking of. This you get for 250 wins on the Drifting Sands hero class. But it's either this, Dawnbringer, or whatever other big yellow weapon you can end up running there if you want to do it. However, I just showed it with just billionaire Lanas. Use the Cattle with its Empower in order to go and mana accumulate immediately into yellow. And then you just spam your Lanas that have 75% mana star and Air Link in order to go get their mana up instantly. Then you just click all your things that hit all enemies simultaneously and you're good to go. As far as the Bounty Hunter event, of course, same as per usual as far as what you end up running. Actually, let me go show the new Bounty Troop. I should have a screen right over here, I believe, for it. So the new Bounty Troop that we're getting this Friday is... Oh, sorry. Wait, it's a faction. Wait. I thought it was Bounty Hunter. Oh no, scratch that. Wait. Did I look at the calendar wrong, or was I thinking of... Oh, you know why I think it was Bounty Hunter? I think the old January one... No, that's not it. I think the old January one at the end showed that it was, but now it showed a different thing. I think that's what ended up happening. Oh no. Well, let's go make the faction teams real quick then. That'll be fine though. So what color faction expansion are we dealing with? So on Tuesday we have yellow-purple. What is the faction event for the other one? I believe that's green-purple. So we can get away with Rowan, Quick Kill, and a few other things like that. But as far as this new troop, this is the new faction troop that we're going to be getting on Friday for that of Primal Rift. As far as what it does, deals a bunch of damage to an enemy, entangles them, and inflicts them with bleed, and if they are already entangled, there's a 30% chance to kill them. Not a great amount, but it does allow you to technically go down the insta-kill route if you want to for the pure faction. So, of course, the main way that you would do pure faction normally for this place would be you just run 3-4 of the Alderfather guy and have your first slot die, and then end up getting a Treant resummon in order to go and basically use that to gain a bunch of attack and armor and win that way. However, this does allow you to go a double, triple of this Assassin Vine and try to go the insta-kill route. It will be a lot more RNG based doing this, but it is another option for winning the Pure Faction Guild War, if nothing else. But yeah, let's go make those teams real quick. My bad. It's not Bounty. Let's see. All right, let's go get all these teams in then. So let's go get rid of that one. Let's go get these teams in real quick. So this should be a green-purple restriction, I'm pretty sure. Let me go see. Primal Rift. Primal Rift is the colors of green-purple. Okay, so that is correct. So let's go make some green-purple teams on the fly. Okay, so this is for the weekend event, so we'll just call it weekend. Let's see. Level 20 to 100 weekend. Alright, so first team. What are we going to build? Let's go build a Rowan quick kill team. So we go a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Might even throw a second leprechaun in there because we can't run the 50% mana start one. So let's throw a second one in there. And just something that doesn't block Rowan will be fine. So we'll just go with a black manacle there and we are good to go. Just change up the banner so it ends up matching her and we should be fine then. And Mechanist is good so we can dispel to get rid of the submerges that might end up appearing. As far as the higher rarity team, well, we do have access to Leprechaun on green-purple. So with access to Leprechaun, we're probably still going to want to end up running that. Let's see, is there any kind of weird team we can end up doing with purple? I also kind of want to do like a Thrall Man Accumulator team or a Bog Strider. I don't know, let's go Bog Strider team. Let's go a Bog Strider in first. And now we have the core of our Man Accumulator. You know what, we're not even going to bother with Hero then. And then we just go for 2 insta-kill options. Actually, you know what we could do? Isn't the Wish Gem guy in this category? Yes. So we could end up running him just for the fun of it. And run, and just run like an insta-kill troop of some kind. And I guess we just go like Maelstrom Dagonov or something. And boom, there we go. All right. I'll just use that for mana accumulation. And you can offset the Box Strider for like Wand of Stars if you want to gain class XP. If you still need class XP for any given hero class. Since we're not using yellow here, we can go minus yellow banner. And I'll use this weird one. It's one of the ones that are from the past things. These do rotate, by the way. If you haven't been noticing, or if you haven't gotten them in the past, there was a patch a couple months ago, I want to say 8.9, that ended up making it, or actually I think it was, whatever the one the anniversary patch was. Was that 9.0? I'm pretty sure that was 8.9, whatever number it was. It ended up making it so these warbands end up rotating like every 2 weeks. I normally don't go over that in weekly videos, but one of them does end up rotating about every 2 weeks or so. So if you haven't gotten all these warbands yet, yeah, the ability to do so is in the game now as of a couple months. So definitely be slowly chipping those down as you find some that you currently don't have yet. And slowly keep getting these. They give you another team slot, they give you some troops and such, but more importantly, they give you a banner that are sometimes really viable for a given team. In this case, this team, where we needed a minus yellow banner while having +2 green, and this is just the most viable one that we could be running for this particular instance. So I'll just set that there. Otherwise, just set to double green to be perfectly fine. As far as the final one, actually, I didn't rename this one yet. This one is the level 20, not the 20, 100 to 500 weekend. All right, there we go. And now, lastly, what team do we have here? Oh, yeah, this is the Pure Faction. So this is the Pure Faction team we're talking about. There are 2 ways to build this. I'll build it the old way, because the troop to build it in the new way is currently not in the game. But of course, as we mentioned, you can go down the insta-kill route. However, there is a more common way that tends to be done. But you could use the new insta-kill one. But the most common way to end up running this Pure Faction is to just run a billion Alder Fathers. And do we give it blue mana? Oh, I guess I'll give it purple. The reason I say blue is because we're going to end up getting a Trent. Do not set a minus blue banner, though, as we will ultimately be using blue on this team. So the way that Alder Father works is it transforms all red to purple, all yellow to skulls, and then it'll summon either a Trent or a green golem. Basically, what you are trying to do when the battle starts is kill your first lot. Once your first lot is killed, cast Alder Father. Hope that you roll the 50-50 to get Trent. If you get green golem, kill that as well until you have an empty slot. Keep doing this until you end up getting Trent. Then once you have Trent, keep casting this. As far as what that troop does, ends up gaining a bunch of armor and attack. Most importantly, attack. And you just keep doing this over and over again. It gains a bunch of durability so it doesn't die. It gains a bunch of attack so you can get to 1 or 2 shot range. And has 50% score reduction so it also never dies. So you basically just have this in first slot constantly gaining buffed. And you just end up winning with that with the skull spam that you have off of this. So ends up working out really, really nicely. Really strong way to run it, and still the better way to do it over the insta-kill option, as it's a lot more consistent. However, you could run like triple of the new insta-kill one that's coming out this Friday and run that with some kind of offset tank. And that would also end up working. But Alder Father is the main one that has been used for so long. Unfortunately, you can't start your team with Trent. This is because it is not a Primal Rift troop. it does have to start as pure Primal Rift. It doesn't have to end Primal Rift. So if your team ends like this, it's perfectly fine, but you can't start it like that, otherwise it doesn't count. So yeah, just kill out your Alder Father, get a Trent in there, and then just win from there, just constantly casting this until you win. And once they're in kill range, you just go spam them down. And if this somehow dies, you have infinite resummon just standing behind it, ready to go and resummon it on a given battle. Yeah, those are the teams for the weekend faction then. My bad, yeah, no bounty hunter this weekend. I think this is what happened. I think the previous counter said it, but it's actually the new faction thingy instead. Still a new trip regardless. Anyway, Soul Forge. I haven't actually peeked at this yet. We still have not gotten Evil Dragon, by the way. We're 21 deep. I think we're 21 deep at this point. Still don't have it. Let's see. How are the Mythics doing? Though we do have a bunch of other Mythics we will be going over this week. Yesterday, we ended up going over the Goblin that came in for this PvP season. Tomorrow, of course, we'll be going over the, as well as on stream tonight, we'll be messing with the current campaign one that we were talking about a little bit earlier during the video. The one for the Queen Wilhelmina. She's, of course, came out as of today. Well, technically 2 weeks ago if you bought the bigger one. And we'll cover her tomorrow. And then on Friday, of course, it's the first Friday of the month, which means we have a new Mythic. So we got a lot of things going on Mythic-wise. A lot of Mythic videos this week. Maybe the most we ever covered. 3 different Mythics for a video. As far as Soulforge, though, I'm not seeing anything worthwhile. This isn't one of those weird thingies, right? No. I don't believe it is. Void Color? Convert a gem into Lycanthropy gem. Is Void Color one of those weird gem ones? I feel like it is. I could tell easily if we have only one copy. Oops, that's not a V. Void, of course, there's like a billion things with Void in it. Nope, okay, yeah, he's not one of them. I'm just double checking. I really wish there was a better indicator for it, which ones are like the PvP legends and mythics. Speaking of which, no, you're not one either. No, yes you are. Right? I keep guessing myself now. Ala Aldin. Drain all mana from an enemy, deal a bunch of damage to all enemies, boosted by mana drained. Was he one? I'm not even starting to forget myself now. I really wish they would have a better way of denoting it in game. Like the PvP legends and mythics. I don't remember if he was or wasn't. I feel like he was because of the potion gem mechanic. But if you didn't get him in the past, he's available. He's not particularly relevant though. He is pretty underwhelming as far as the troop itself. Just not really too much of a use case to end up bringing it out. So yeah, it looks like pretty skippable Soulforge unless you're just looking to pick up stuff that you just don't already have or need for kingdom upgrades. Otherwise, as far as the actual usability of all these troops, nothing really worthwhile. As far as weapons are concerned, with it being a Golvania event week, we meant mentioning this earlier, but worth reiterating. The Doom Scythe. This thing is pretty good. Ends up converting all yellows into Doom Skulls. And not only denying all the yellow, but also getting a ton of damage from that. You can get extra turns from it. Does a bunch of damage to all enemies. Very solid weapon all around. Every single weapon that's in this category is definitely worth obtaining. Beyond that, I would say Golvania doesn't really have anything too noteworthy unless you're just looking to pick up a weapon for the current event weeks as far as Underspire and everything. Though it will not stop me from double checking these. I need to like memorize these forever. Though I feel like even once I memorize them, I will still always check. Just being like, is it? But those 6 weapons I always want to keep an eye out for, of course, as they are time gated beyond, you know, the 3 events rotating around. So for Dustbringer and for Ruby Weapon, even if you don't really plan on using them, as Dustbringer is pretty outdated these days, you still want to go and gain the opponents whenever they are available. Though this week is not one of those weeks. Anyways, beyond that, other things. We went over it earlier, but yeah, don't forget, this is a daily, the yellow holiday event. This is not one that you can put off and do all the way at the end of the week. You do have to do this every single day. All you really have to do is go spend your 50 gems per day if you want to try to get all of the rewards. And this will end up, as long as you keep leveling up every single time, this will give you enough if you do 50 gems per day to go get the Crimson Armor if you didn't get it from previous season. The 3 copies, well, technically 1 copy. You buy it once, but you get 3 copies of it. But the 1 copy of the King Equistus, to be able to go and get that legend. 6 of the pet, 5 to get it max, and then the 6th one to get the golden version, which I guess the 6th one isn't as important these days since you can get it from the pet drop table. I would still get it just so you don't have to worry about it. And then of course the power orb you would also end up getting from that, which could be put towards future power orb mythics, which hopefully we'll get another one this year. And because the most recent one was Maelstrom Daggenough if you haven't already gotten it with your power orbs. But yeah, I'm not sure how they're going to power creep beyond that. Maelstrom Daggenoff's pretty crazy. Pretty much infinite loop insta-kill, which is sad because that's still too slow sometimes. compared to, you know, like Flower Dragon, some other things. It's actually crazy that that's considered slow in some battle instances. But as far as these events is concerned, of course, you just set any pure yellow team you wish. Keep pushing forward. Whenever it says to level up, go and level up unless you're earlier on in the game and find that you end up hitting a wall, in which case to stay at whatever level is comfortable. But otherwise, later in the game, obviously, you just level up every single time, get all your points, and get everything from the shop, and plays the same as it normally would. Beyond that, there's also the weekly progress. We're going to have this both this week and next week. What do you have to kill for this one? Does it say you're red? So we got to kill reds for these, just reds in any battle. You'll probably get this done just by doing standard dailies, but this gives you the final copy of the pet that you end up needing to max it out. Getting all the pet copies from the event is one short, so you need to do this event, or, you know, kill all these reds either this week or next week, or ideally both, in order to go get the one copy of the pet you need in order to fully max it out, as the copies that you get from the event is not all of the ones you need. You still need one extra one from this. And then, of course, all the extra little knick-knack loot that you end up getting along the way as well. So you'll be able to have that both this week and next week. But just doing standard dailies should pretty much get it done. Otherwise, just go anywhere where you need to kill red. Speaking of going somewhere to kill something, do not forget, since this is the final week to do the campaign, that this is also the final week to go get all the rewards in the campaign shop. I mentioned these slightly earlier as well with the purple deed books. Highly advise getting these. These are the best deed books in the entire game if you haven't maxed the 3 magic kingdoms yet. Those being Blighted Lands, Zulkiri, and Darkstone. So if you haven't gotten those 3 kingdoms maxed out for all the extra magic, highly advise working towards those, as they give a very substantial bonus, since all kingdoms give 1 stat, and magic is by far the most useful of those 1 stats. But yeah, purple deed books used for 3 of the 4 of them. The other one being Zulkiri, but that's green instead. The other one that's pretty noteworthy is killing undeads. If you haven't done this, unfortunately, you can't do this in Golvania, where the most undeads are. However, 2 other locations are pretty decent for is Blighted Lands and just PvP in general. Any team that's running like Double Pharaoh or just any kind of undead in general, you should be able to find a lot of things in that category that you should be able to go kill out. Obviously, ideally, you want to complete out all of these, but if you need to prioritize any, the Slayer one for the purple deed book, the Match Master and Heroic Master one for the deed book as well, and the favorite enemy one for the power, or not power orb, but the 3 medals that you need in order to go and fully max out the elite level of a troop, are all the highest priority rewards here. So if you need to prioritize some, those 4 are the ones that you definitely want to prioritize if you have not already completed all of them. Otherwise, also complete all of them. Beyond that, other things. Nothing over here. We already did that. Oh yeah, we can see that Blue Guild Wars is next. That was also on the calendar. Not sure if I mentioned it earlier. Can we see what the troop is yet? We cannot. This is still the one from the previous one. I guess it'll be updated by tomorrow or the following day. I guess it's mostly just here to be able to go claim your reward, which I already did earlier. But no, it's still showing the shiny quill in here, which we did end up getting. But who knows? Maybe it's going to be Tesla for it. I don't know. I guess we'll find out by next week, or definitely in the next few days or so. But no, we're definitely not getting shiny Tesla. But I am curious what blue troop they're going to choose, as there is a lot of things obviously under blue that it could be. They're probably going to do something completely pointless, though. That is not going to be really that worthwhile. Anyways, beyond that, let's go over to the event keys now. So event keys are for Golvania this week. As far as event keys are concerned, not the greatest week to be throwing these down on. However, there are a few things that you might end up wanting to pick up, depending on what your goals are for the week. As there are quite a few things in here that can end up helping you for the current event week. As far as everything that is not in drop table, though, this includes the very long list of the 5 troops from the Dark Court. This is only from throwing Chaos Shards at the Dark Court faction. The invasion troop for the current invasion event of the Grave Worm. This is only from throwing gems at the current invasion event to go and complete that out. The Undead Sentinel. This is only from getting very lucky in Underspire. All the dead end rooms have a small chance of giving you a Undead Sentinel. All the ones that have like those little symbols on it, like 1, 2, you know, the Roman numeral ones. All those end up having a chance of giving you a random Sentinel. There's currently no way to target these, but there will be at some point in the future. The Tarot card of the Queen of Cups is only from the Vault Key drop table. And then lastly, the actually a couple more. The Thorn Nessa. This thing is from the Flower Egg drop table. Very rare drop from that is the Red Flower Dragon. Or not rare, but you know, 1 in 6. The other ones that are not in drop table includes the Immortal Gemini, which are from the Burning Marks in PvP. And lastly, the one that is not in drop table is the Queen Wilhelmina from the current campaign, which of course is only from the current campaign pass for $10 or regional equivalents. However, this will be available, of course, in the future in about a couple months, so you'll be able to get it from all those drop tables then. And by the next Golvania event, you will be able to go and event key for it. But this particular one, you cannot event key for it, as it is not an event key since it is from the current current campaign instead. Wow, there's a lot of things. Every single week, I feel like there's so many things to mention for this, but that should be all of them. So as far as things that are in drop table, what are you looking for? Earlier on in the game, there's like one thing you kind of want for this week, as well as just undeads in general. It is Ghost Queen. It gives 50% mana start to all undeads, really useful this week as well as in the future if you're ever running any undead team for Golvania or otherwise. It's just a really good troop to have around for the 50% mana start. Its ability is not the greatest, just steal some mana from an enemy and it does a little bit of true damage while gaining their life. It's a pretty underwhelming ability compared to some 50% mana start troops, but it's still, you know, you still use it under 4 times undead restrictions and stuff. I personally didn't for any of the teams this week. Actually, no, did I for the low rarity team? I think I did for a low rarity team. But yeah, you can event key for them. Given how many legends are here, it should take about, what, 200-ish event keys, somewhere around there? No, actually less than that. What's this drop table? Actually, you know what? Let's just open event keys until we get one. Open 200. Did we get one? Yeah, there we go. We got 3 Ghost Queens and 200, whatever that comes out to. Yeah, there seems to be 4 legends in drop table, I believe. It looks like from that page there, too. So, I almost forgot about this troop. This one's actually kind of fun to mess around with, too. But 50% mana start, it seems to be about a 1 in 60-ish, 70-ish, somewhere around there. At least based on this small sample. But yeah, within 200, we got 3 of them there. But as far as... Oh no, that changed my thing. No! So as far as the Mythic, I forgot to click Save Filter. No! No, base rarity, show all. There we go, Save Filter. Okay, now if I go out this menu, it'll save it. But as far as Mythics here, there are 4 of them. Draculus, Morthani's Darkness, or 4 of them that are drop table. Morthani's Darkness, Gemini, and Grey King. Of these, there's really only one that's particularly viable. Draculus okay, but it's mostly Grey King. If you're generally thinking of a Mythic from this location, you're generally thinking of Grey King more often than not. If you're honestly even thinking of any troop from this kingdom, it's normally Grey King. And a Crimson Bat. Crimson Bat's pretty fun too. But ever since you've been shiny to be a little bit more viable. But Grey King, really solid. Has really a lot of control, ends up destroying all gems of given color, which also gives you mana accumulation for all the cascade value, ends up mana draining, silencing, and freezing everything of that color, so it's really good against pure color teams. So let's say they're using 4 blue troops for, I don't know, Blue Guild War coming up, as this is a great opportunity. Well, then again, this is 4,000 event keys, maybe not a good opportunity, but it is a possibility that you can event key for at about 1 in 4,000-ish or so. But this is really good for next Blue Guild War. I'm not sure if I'll be running it for a lot of teams or anything, as obviously we have access to Talk Shotgun and stuff. But if you are looking, if you feel like you have nothing for Blue Guild War, this is very, very solid for if the enemy team happens to be using a pure color team, either defensively or offensively. Though, of course, if you are using it offensively, it does need to be, you know, the enemy team does need to be pure color, or at least anything that you can like double cast to end up getting this effect on, as he's a pretty good mana drainer. Not anywhere as near as good as the new yellow dragon that we end up getting, the new evil yellow dragon. But in instances where you could double or single cast to end up getting the entire team mana drain, silence, and frozen, he ends up working out really, really well. So if the enemy team's a pure color for any reason, if the enemy team has enough color overlap where you could double cast them to get them all silenced after that, he's pretty solid in those kind of situations while also doing a decent amount of true damage. Not the greatest thing in the game, but has a lot of utility for it. And in the restrictions where you tend to use them like Undead and Golvania, he's a very strong Golvania and Undead troop, with most teams in both of those 2 restrictions being based heavily around utilizing him. So he's really good for the current event week, but also for Blue Guild War. Beyond that, yeah, I would say just if you're going low rarity, you're mostly just looking for Ghost Queen. I guess you could also say you're kind of looking for Crimson Bat. Crimson Bat is basically the definitively worst Tesla. However, it does have some utility that makes it a little bit better. Most notably, it's been max shinyable as of recently. A few Guild Wars ago, you could be able to get it max shinied out, which ends up giving it down to 13 mana cost instead of 15, while also giving it a bleed mechanic on its ability rather than no bleed mechanic at all. Its most notable use case as far as traits or things that make it unique, that makes it utility-wise slightly better than Tesla, because its ability is definitively worse. But the main utility that has over Tesla is it does double damage against divines, but also double damage against wounded enemies. And these do stack, so if it's a wounded divine, wounded being anything that's missing any HP at all, it'll end up dealing 4 times damage in those situations, making a pretty good divine counter, but also technically just a good counter to pretty much everything in the game, in the sense that as long as you get a small amount of true damage on everything, either from bleed or poison or just a true damage mechanic of any kind, you will end up starting to do double damage to all enemies. The biggest issue holding this thing back, though, is he does not have a trait to do true damage on Skull. All of his Skull damage is physical, which leads to a very big conflict of interest because his whole kingdom, including his ability, is very true damage heavy. However, all of his skulls, despite having a pretty hefty amount of skull damage, is physical damage and not true damage, which always been one of the bigger things that's kind of hold Crimson back ever since traits end up coming out. But the shininess has made him a lot more viable. But you're basically just opening early game until you get Ghost Queen. It's the only thing from this kingdom that I would say is like a must-have for the most part. Everything else is pretty ignorable. Like, you can live without Grey King. You definitely live without Crimson Bat. You can just get Tesla and never need him again in most situations. So you're mostly just looking for the Ghost Queen for the utility, and then you basically can stop opening event keys forever from this kingdom unless you're looking to get specifically a certain kingdom star for the kingdom. But since this is a purple kingdom, you tend to save this kingdom pretty much for last, or as one of the few last purple kingdoms you ever upgrade, as is much higher priority to do the other purple kingdoms that are magic related of Blighted Lands, Darkstone, and Karkaroth, as those 3 purple kingdoms are of much higher priority and should always be upgraded before you even consider putting a single thing into Golvania. And by a single thing, I mean anything higher than like 15 or 16. 16 if you plan to do explore chasing, 15 otherwise in order to save the 2 purple deed books there that you can put towards magic kingdoms. Anyways, beyond that, I think the only thing we haven't gone over, of course, is the new shop. Also, you can buy event keys over here if you haven't already gotten them in the resource tab. But the only thing we haven't gone over is Lord Harker. So as far as this troop is concerned, he, if Queen, the new mythic that came out as of today, if she's on your team, he will convert all brown gems to bleed gems, so brown to purple, and then explode 65 gems. So this guy's basically Gorgoltha, but he creates 1 billion bleed gems if you happen to have, or, you know, the brown to purple bleed gems. It'll end up doing if the new mythic that came out today is on your team. But otherwise, he's basically 14 mana cost Gorgoltha. He has spell reduction instead of 75% score reduction, but that's basically all he is an epic troop that's just Gorgoltha, like modern Gorgoltha. With that being said, this is decently weak just because Gorgoltha-like troops are not that useful these days. They're perfectly fine if you don't have any other better option, but I just realized we could use him for mana accumulation. Wait, why did I not? Wait, did I just forget at the time when I was making the teams to put him on? I think I did, because I was making the teams earlier. Yeah, why didn't I just show this on the team? Not this one. It's the undead one. Because I was mentioning this place is lacking mana accumulation. No, it's not. Not anymore. Not as of this week. Yeah, honestly, I'm just gonna put on both teams. I don't even need Sentinel here. Give me him. Hold up. Give me that guy. Actually, give him mana too. We're going all in on him. Give me like red purple. I'll probably even use the new mythic on it too. I'm not going to show it here because, well, for one, I don't have it, but also because it's money locked at the moment. But we're minusing yellow. Yeah, let's keep minusing yellow. So yeah, give me that. Because yeah, that's a lot of mana. It's literally just Gorgoltha. Look at that explode. 81 gems is pretty much guarantee full board, and by pretty much guarantee, I mean literally guarantee. And even though we're not using her, or maybe we will later, if you were to use her, you would also get a ton of bleed onto the enemy team. Unfortunately, you don't get to utilize those bleed gems for her because it's immediately going to get exploded. But you do get to utilize the fact that you get to mass bleed the enemy, if nothing else, and start stacking those 4 bleeds so you can get 10 true damage per turn. But yeah, use this guy. Well, I guess we have a placeholder ready to go. There we go, perfect. But yeah, how did I not do that earlier? Like, it just completely slipped my mind because I was aware of him. I just completely forgot to go put him on the teams because I haven't bought him yet. Because I clicked show, I think I just clicked the default instead of show all, so I kind of forgot since I didn't actually unlock him yet. But yeah, he's just insane mana. Honestly, you might even use him or friend the weapon. I think you still use it behind though. Though you would need to change your banner accordingly, similar to this one. What do we not need here? We're minusing, yeah, we might still minus yellow here and just feed a little bit of mana so we can still go into him. But yeah, that's all the mana accumulation you really need. But other than him, prior to today, we haven't really had too many good mana accumulators for Golvania, so really good in that regard. It's basically the same fix that Kizil has with Gorgoltha, where, you know, it's just mass mana accumulator, where there's not too many really good options, but there's a few more in that area, like Apothecary and Powers. But yeah, it kind of fits together all the mana accumulation that you kind of need for the kingdom now. You just kind of plop them onto your team and you just have infinite mana, which is a very, 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 very solid option, as it fixes pretty much every previous mana issue you would have had with the kingdom. So yeah, it's pretty nice. And you don't even have to use it with her. The only benefit that you get from using it with her is you get to bleed up to maybe like 10-ish enemies, depending on how many you convert. And that's really it. It's not really doing much beyond that. So you can still use whatever other things you want. You don't have to end up using the new mythic. So if you don't have it, it's not really that big a deal. You need him almost entirely for his mana accumulation. But yeah, highly advise getting this guy. Really good for all of the events this week. And by all of them, I mean mostly Underspire. But yeah, really great with Underspire. Doesn't have to be used with her. Has a little bit of spell reduction too. Nowhere's near like Gorgulth's 75% score reduction, but you know, it's still not bad. Also has a 10% chance to create a bleed gem every single turn, which is not a high number, but this is creating a bleed gem, so you can get alignment off it. It's not just converting like a purple into a bleed. It's actually creating a color onto the board. So we'll occasionally get some value from that, but the only good trait ultimately is a little bit of spell reduction to keep him alive. Unfortunately, since he is a mana accumulator, you normally want to be using him further up on your team, and because you're using him further up on your team, that means he's more susceptible to skulls, which is slightly defeats the point of you know, no score reduction, which means you generally want to probably be using him in second slot. First slot, he will be a little flimsy, but you could use him in first slot as well, but he has no score reduction for that first slot, unfortunately. Only spell reduction, making him a little bit better further back, but he, due to being a mana accumulator, wants to be used further front on your team. So a little bit of a conflicting interest there, but you can still end up utilizing him for a ton of mana compared to any other option that is currently available for that of Golvania. But anyways, guys, that'll wrap it up for now. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Tonight we'll be, of course, messing around with the new Mythic, potentially even the new Mythic with him, though in most situations you're not going to need to use them together. But it is a nice little extra synergy that you can end up doing with them. But yeah, we'll be messing with her. We'll be doing that tonight as well. I'll cover the video on it tomorrow. And we'll also be, of course, covering the new Mythic on Friday, whenever that ends up coming out. I haven't actually peeked to see what it does, but we'll find out then if it does anything good or not. Hopefully it's not completely dead content Mythic, because yeah, they've been on a little bit of a streak of bad ones lately, so hopefully we get another pretty decent one in the near future. But anyways, guys, I'll wrap it up for now. Hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful week, and I will catch you all later. Bye, everyone, and thanks for watching.